I guess the first thing I wanted to know is the new model automobiles are out now, and I wonder how you feel, how much you've affected them and how much you feel you ought to, or how they look to you.
Well, two significant things have happened in the 1970 model year. The current constant style change is being toned down. Apparently it's too expensive even for the auto companies. And there haven't been many improvements this year for safety.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to a real major breakthrough in about 2 years with an automatic restraint system. You might have read about it, Dick, where you get an immediate ejection of the airbag in 30 milliseconds, breaking the connection between the occupants of the car, smashing into the car.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a secret weapon for safety. But this year, for 1970 cars, there's just nothing very exciting at all.
What are the things you would change about them right now?
Well, the first thing is to improve the seat belts. They're very difficult to use. They should be a part of an integrated seat where they're easy to clip on and easy to use.
Yeah, you have to find them down here, and then you pull
Look
this
for
one
them
out
up
from
there.
Yeah, they are.
It's almost as if
easy.
they were designed in order not to be used. It's a very strange situation.
Yeah.
And a stronger passenger compartment shell. You know, the side impacts, the front impacts, the passengers don't have a chance when they are in a crash for whatever reason, driver failure, highway defect, auto defect. They don't have that second chance to be protected adequately.
I don't know if you're the one who first made this clear or not, but I remember reading, tell me if this is wrong, that virtually all traffic deaths could be eliminated. Virtually all, not all. But if safety features were followed, that the 50,000 people or whatever it is could be cut down to almost.
That's right. Certainly three-quarters of the motorist deaths. There's very little you can do about pedestrian deaths in terms of designing the car.
Yeah.
But motorist deaths, a tremendous number, can be reduced by simply redesigning the vehicle to absorb energy safely and protect the occupants.
Yeah. What's on your mind now? What other areas have you gotten into, and what should we be looking out for?
Well, a whole host of areas. The food area is an extremely serious one, I think, in terms of the quality of the food. The problem of interest rates, of course, is affecting everybody, middle class, poor. Almost everybody is affected by inflation in these areas. We have the problem of air and water pollution, which is getting more and more serious throughout the land. The scarring of the natural environment, the beauty, the use of water for recreational purposes, the use of the air for breathing, the contamination of the soil. The trouble is, Dick, a lot of people don't like to think about these things because they're unpleasant. But I think we've got to think hard before we find ourselves in an irrevocable situation.
Yeah. Last time you were on, you were talking about processed meats and the fact that they'd found rodent remains in a lot of well-known processed meats. We lost our rodent remains sponsor, as a matter of fact, that day. Has that situation improved considerably, or
Actually,
any?
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is beginning to enforce the law more vigorously, and numbers of plants all around the country are being suspended or closed down until they can clean up their operations.
Yeah. Do you still have a difficult life? By this I mean there was that one period we all read about where you were followed and they were trying to get information on you that made your company, that I guess was embarrassed enough, we needn't mention, and they later apologized and all. Is any of that kind of thing going on now, because you're dreaded and feared and despised in a lot of circles?
I don't know. Not to my knowledge.
That's just the sound equipment that you hear back there.
It's not as overt anymore. It's obvious because it just doesn't do credit to the companies that try these things. Yeah. But there are criticisms and counter-criticisms and rebuttals, and it's the old story. If you can't stand the heat, you get out of the kitchen.
And these raiders of yours, these you don't call them that, I gather. I think that's probably a newspaper invention. Who are they? How do they get with you?
They're largely graduate students in law, medicine, and engineering from about 30 universities right across the country. And some of them contacted me. I recruited others. And this summer, they spent the entire summer on a very modest stipend investigating about 7 federal agencies. The agencies that are responsible for air and water pollution control, U.S. Department of Agriculture, the agency is responsible for passenger train service, Interstate Commerce Commission, the Food and Drug Administration's work in the food area, and a very serious problem, industrial health and safety. And it's
Would that be like the
injuries
coal
on the
miners,
job,
for
right.
example?
Like the coal miners, the copper miners, the steel workers, a whole host of hazards which are proliferating.
What can be done for those coal miners? That's really depressing when you read about the reluctance to make their job safe.
I think it's easy to say what can be done. There's a bill in Congress that has to be passed to set strict standards for dust control and for other hazards in the mine. And the second thing that has to be done is that there has to be a change of leadership in the union so that the union, United Mine Workers, have the kind of vigorous leadership that fights for their members. Those two major changes in the next year can really make a difference.
What are some things that we might be going out and getting every day that we're likely to be in some sense gypped on now?
How much time do I have?
Well, yeah, start out.
All right, let's take an easy one, mouthwashes. A recent report out of the National Academy of Sciences came out with a report on drugs and other quasi-drug products saying that mouthwashes are worthless for the purpose to which they're advertised. Dr. James Goddard, who headed the Food and Drug Administration a little while ago, mentioned that there were about 300 drugs and patent medicines on the market that either were harmless, worthless for the purposes for which they're advertised, or both. That's a lot of money.
That is. It's depressing.
Another problem which we can't drop if we buy cars is the bumper on today's cars. Just look at the bumper. It's useless.
How do you mean?
At best, it protects itself. At best.
That's nice for it, isn't it?
But the purpose of the bumper, as anybody knows, is on low impacts to protect the car against minor damage. But the bumper is designed today, literally, by the manufacturer's own standards, to withstand a collision not exceeding 2 miles an hour.
So it only
Now,
keeps
add
you
it
from
up.
being damaged by pedestrians, probably, or something.
Or to protect the car. Right. What it does, in effect, it affects the motorist's pocketbook in two ways. One, it fosters a bumper guard industry. So we got to buy bumper guards to put on bumpers to protect the bumpers. And second, for impacts, say, under 10 miles an hour, I think everybody deserves, when he purchases a car, for impacts under 10 miles an hour, not to have his car damaged seriously. For impacts under 10 miles an hour, the motorist is paying about $1 billion a year in unnecessary auto repair costs. Consumer Reports, in their current issue, tested a 1969 model car. They crashed the car in a fixed barrier at 3 miles an hour, $44 damage. They crashed it at 10 miles an hour, $480 damage.
Rather.
Well, that's money out of a motorist's pocket.
Yeah. Am I sicker than I think, or do you hear a siren?